Hey everyone, welcome back to the OET Bank podcast. Today, we're diving into one of the most common but also one of the most misunderstood questions we get from international medical graduates, or IMGs. Should you pursue a research fellowship or a clinical fellowship if you want to work in the US as a doctor?
Yeah, and honestly, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on your personal goals, your current qualifications, your visa situation, and how quickly you want or need to establish yourself in the US system. But this is a super important decision because it can affect your entire immigration timeline, your eligibility for licensure, and your long-term career trajectory.
Right. So, in this episode, we'll not only compare the two types of fellowships, we'll also give real-world examples of people who've taken each route, discuss visa and licensing implications, talk money, and even bring in some international comparisons. And at the end, we'll share a kind of decision-making framework to help you figure out what path might suit you best.
Sounds good. Let's get into it.
So, let's define our terms. What exactly is a research fellowship? And what's a clinical fellowship?
Great question. A research fellowship is typically a non-clinical academic position. You might be working in a university hospital or a lab, doing anything from bench research to clinical trials to data analysis. You're not seeing patients directly. Your job is usually to support studies, write papers, present at conferences, and build up your academic profile.
And clinical?
A clinical fellowship is generally hospital-based. It may involve direct patient care, shadowing, observing procedures, or even performing them, depending on your licensing status. These roles give you real exposure to how medicine is practiced in the US, and that can be super valuable for networking, getting letters of recommendation, or applying to residency later on.
So already we're seeing a big difference, academic versus hands-on.
Exactly. And that difference affects everything else: visa type, salary, licensing, even how close each path gets you to a green card.
Let's get the big one out of the way. USMLE. Do both types of fellowship require it?
Nope, and that's a major difference. For research fellowships, you usually don't need USMLE. You're not treating patients, so the requirement is often waived. Many IMGs use a research fellowship as a kind of landing pad while they study for the exams.
That makes sense. It buys you time, right?
Exactly. But for clinical fellowships, most programs do require USMLE Step 1 and Step 2 CK, and some even want Step 3, especially if you want to be on an H-1B visa, or if you're expected to have any direct patient responsibility.
So you can't just shadow your way into the clinical system. You need credentials.
That's right. And even if the program accepts you without Step 3, if you later want to transfer to a job or convert your visa, that missing Step 3 could really slow you down.
Let's bring this to life. Do you have any real-world stories of people who've gone either route?
Definitely. Here's one. Dr. Hana was a pediatrician from Egypt who started in a research fellowship at a children's hospital in Ohio. She didn't have USMLE yet, but she had research experience and a few publications. Over 18 months, she built a research portfolio and passed Step 1 and Step 2 CK. Then she transitioned into a clinical observer role and later matched into residency. Now she's doing her PGY too.
Wow. So it was a long game, but she played it smart.
Exactly. On the other hand, we had Dr. Kim from South Korea who had already passed all 3 USMLE steps. He applied directly to a clinical fellowship in gastroenterology. He was accepted, came on an H-1B, and within 2 years, the hospital helped sponsor his green card. But, and here's the twist, he later found out he couldn't practice independently without completing a US residency.
Even with fellowship experience?
Yep. Clinical fellowships don't replace ACGME-accredited residency, so he had to go backward and re-enter the match.
Let's talk about visas. Which visas are common for each path?
For research, you'll mostly see the J1 Research Scholar, H-1B, or O-1. For clinical, it's the J1 Clinical Visa, sponsored by ECFMG or an H-1B. But the requirements are tighter. J1 Clinical comes with a 2-year home residency requirement unless you get a waiver.
Let's pause on that. What's this 2-year rule?
If you come to the US on a J1 Clinical visa, you're obligated to return to your home country for 2 years before applying for an immigrant visa or H-1B unless you get a waiver. The most common waiver is through the Conrad 30 program, which requires working in a designated underserved area.
So it's a trade-off. Get valuable clinical experience, but maybe delay your green card.
Exactly. With research, you might have more visa flexibility, but your path to licensure and permanent residency is often slower unless you're publishing at a very high level.
What about salary? Let's say someone's trying to support a family or send money home.
Big difference here. Research fellowships pay $50,000 to $70,000 per year on average, depending on the institution and funding. Clinical fellowships usually pay $60,000 to $100,000, depending on the state and specialty.
Is that enough to live on?
It depends where you are. In rural areas, yes. In New York or San Francisco, not really. Plus, you might have visa fees, exam costs, credential evaluations, and rent.
So, what happens after the fellowship? Do people get jobs?
That's where it gets complicated. Research fellows can apply for EB-1 Ampere, EB-1B, or EB-2 NIW green cards if they build up enough publications and recognition. Clinical fellows might be eligible for physician NIW if they work in a shortage area. But again, they still need to complete a U.S. residency for full licensure.
So no matter which fellowship, residency is usually the end goal?
Exactly. The fellowship can support your application, but it doesn't substitute for the match.
Let's be honest, what are some common mistakes IMGs make when choosing between these paths?
Number 1. Thinking clinical fellowship means you can practice independently. Nope, you still need residency. Number 2. Assuming research fellowship is an easy path to a green card. It's not, unless you're a publishing machine. Number 3. Underestimating visa complexity. Transferring from J1 to H1B can be harder than it sounds, and missing deadlines can cost you status.
How does this compare to other countries, like the UK or Australia?
In the UK, there's the MTI Scheme Medical Training Initiative, where IMGs can come for 2 years in supervised training. Australia allows short-term specialist training with less bureaucracy and often no residency requirement. The US system is much more regulated, and most paths ultimately require ECFMG certification plus residency to practice.
Okay, let's do a rapid-fire K.
Sure.
Can I get a green card with just a research fellowship?
Yes, but only if you meet the criteria for EB-1 Ampere, EB-1B, or EB-2 NIW. It's not automatic.
Is observership the same as clinical fellowship?
Nope. Observerships are unpaid, short-term, and usually don't count toward licensing.
If I do a clinical fellowship, can I skip residency?
No. Clinical fellowships don't replace U.S. residency training for licensure.
All right, let's wrap it up. How can someone decide which path to take?
Ask yourself, have I passed any USMLE exams yet? Do I need income, or can I survive on a stipend? What's my visa situation? Do I want to publish or treat patients? If you haven't passed USMLE yet but want to start building your profile, go research. If you're already certified and want clinical exposure, go clinical but know what comes after.
Amazing. That was a masterclass.
And if you're working on your English or preparing for OET, check out OET Bank for resources to help you succeed abroad. We're here to make your journey smarter, faster, and a little less lonely.
See you in the next episode.